When someone truly starts to wake up, they pull away from the noise. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When your awareness starts to expand, you begin to realize how much energy leaks out through unnecessary talking, oversharing, and trying to prove yourself. Every time you announce your next move, your next dream, your next evolution, you scatter that sacred energy into the minds of others. Their opinions, even if they mean well, start shaping your vibration. It's like trying to light a candle in the wind. Too many eyes watching, too many hands reaching, and suddenly that spark struggles to stay alive. You see, attention isn't just focus, it's currency. Where attention goes, energy flows. When you invite too many people into your inner world, their energy mixes with yours. Some admire you, others envy you, most simply don't understand you. And their thoughts, those subtle, unseen frequencies, start touching your field. The more spiritually awake you become, the more sensitive you are to that. So naturally, you start valuing silence. You learn that peace thrives in privacy. People who aren't on the same wavelength might take your quietness as distance or mystery, but really, it's protection. You're no longer trying to convince anyone to believe in what you see. You realize the more you talk about what's forming inside you, the more it starts to dissolve before it's ready. Like opening an oven too soon, the bread collapses. So you learn to keep your transformation sacred until it's complete. There's also something else: expectation. The moment you tell others your plans, their expectations start to shape them. You begin feeling pressure to perform, to succeed, to make it all work fast. And when it doesn't, shame creeps in. That shame becomes noise in your energy. But when you stay quiet, the only expectation you're meeting is your own. You move slower, you grow steadier, you evolve authentically without performance. In this world of constant updates and public progress, silence is rebellion. Privacy becomes power. You start realizing that not everything sacred needs an audience. What grows in darkness blooms stronger under the light later. Spiritually awake people understand this, and that's why they don't broadcast every step. They let their results speak in frequencies words could never reach. Once you start stepping deeper into awareness, the need for quiet becomes more than just a preference. It becomes protection. You begin to sense how delicate energy really is. Every word, every thought, every exchange leaves an imprint. It's like your spirit becomes a finely tuned instrument, and the slightest interference can throw it off key. That's why those who awaken naturally start withdrawing from unnecessary noise. They're not being distant, they're preserving their alignment. Just like you wouldn't let anyone play random notes on your favorite instrument, you stop letting everyone touch your energy. You realize that not every vibration deserves access to your inner world. See, when you speak your plans, you open a doorway for energy to enter, and not all energy that enters is kind. Some people will celebrate your ideas, but others, consciously or unconsciously, will project their doubts, fears, or envy onto them. That projection lingers. It seeps into the roots of your manifestation, quietly shaping how things unfold. Even subtle thoughts like, "I don't think they can do it," can ripple through the unseen field of energy around you. Spiritually awake people feel this. They notice when their vibration shifts after certain conversations. They pick up on heaviness that wasn't there before. So they start talking less, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've realized the sacredness of what they're protecting. Privacy becomes a spiritual shield. It's not about hiding, it's about containing energy long enough for it to mature. Like planting a seed and covering it with soil, you keep your intentions buried in silence until they're strong enough to face the elements. When you constantly talk about your dreams or your growth, you expose that seed to too much light, too soon. The energy disperses before it roots itself deeply within you. That's why ancient mystics practiced what's called the discipline of secrecy, not secrecy from fear, but from wisdom. They understood that spiritual power grows in silence, and that the more still you are, the more potent your energy becomes. And when you start living with that kind of awareness, you notice how different your peace feels. The noise of other people's opinions no longer drowns your intuition. You can finally hear your own inner voice, clear, calm, and guiding. You stop looking for validation outside of yourself because you've learned that external approval always comes with energetic strings attached. The less you share prematurely, the more connected you stay to your purpose. Your energy doesn't leak into conversations or explanations. It circulates within you, building strength, confidence, and clarity. In a way, silence becomes sacred armor. Spiritually awake people aren't avoiding connection. They're choosing conscious connection. They don't reject the world. They simply filter what enters their field. They know that when your energy is pure, your reality stays clear. That's why they live privately, not to isolate themselves from life, but to protect the sacred force that gives them life. When your energy is aligned, your manifestations unfold naturally. You don't need to announce them. The universe already heard you. As your awareness deepens, you start noticing something subtle yet powerful: the energy of being watched. It's not just physical eyes, it's energetic attention. When others start observing your growth, whether out of curiosity, admiration, or quiet skepticism, it changes the atmosphere around you. You begin to feel their thoughts brushing against your field like invisible hands. Suddenly, your inner world doesn't feel as private anymore. The peace that once allowed you to grow freely starts bending under the weight of expectation. Spiritually awake people recognize this and instinctively withdraw, not because they fear judgment, but because they've learned how fragile spiritual momentum can be when too many eyes are on it. When people watch you, they begin to build stories about your path, who you are, what you should be doing, what they think you're becoming. Those stories carry energy, and that energy seeps into the space between you and your truth. Before you know it, you start feeling pressure to fit the image others have created. You begin adjusting your behavior, not out of authenticity, but out of subconscious performance. It's like trying to meditate while an audience watches. It's not that you can't, but your focus becomes split. The presence of others subtly pulls your awareness outward, away from the stillness within. That's why awakened people retreat into solitude. It's where they can realign with their inner compass, away from the energetic noise of external perception. Living a private life doesn't mean being secretive or antisocial. It means choosing to protect the sacred intimacy between you and your growth. When too many people become invested in your process, their expectations can distort your path. Some want to see you rise. Others, whether they realize it or not, hope to see you fall. Either way, you're no longer moving freely. You're performing under invisible pressure. And in that space, spiritual progress becomes slower, heavier, less fluid. Privacy, on the other hand, restores flow. It lets you experiment, fail, and evolve without commentary. It lets you stay human while reaching for the divine. There's an ancient saying, "A flower does not bloom to be seen. It blooms because it must." Spiritually awake people understand this deeply. They don't bloom for recognition, nor do they fear being unseen. They bloom in silence because their soul requires it. They know that once too many eyes are watching, the natural rhythm of growth becomes performance. So they live quietly, not as an act of hiding, but as an act of devotion. A devotion to authenticity, to alignment, and to the sacred art of evolving in peace. Once you step out of the noise of other people's expectations, something beautiful happens. You rediscover the power of mystery. After carrying the weight of being watched, there's deep relief in being unseen again. It's like breathing fresh air after being in a crowded room for too long. Spiritually awake, people crave that freshness. They know that when life becomes too exposed, its magic fades. Mystery keeps the soul alive. It allows the unknown to do its quiet work behind the scenes, without pressure or interruption. When you keep certain things sacred and unspoken, the universe seems to move with more grace around you, guiding your steps in silence. In a world obsessed with exposure, privacy feels almost rebellious. Everyone wants to announce their growth, their achievements, their plans, but those who are truly awake don't need to. They understand that what's unseen often carries more power than what's displayed. There's something sacred about letting your progress unfold without commentary, something almost divine about shocking people, not with promises, but with transformation. When you move privately, your life starts to feel more aligned with divine timing instead of public timing. You no longer rush to prove, you allow things to ripen in their own season. And the quiet wins, they hit differently. There's a certain peace in knowing that no one saw your struggle, yet here you are, stronger, lighter, freer. No validation, no applause, just quiet satisfaction. Spiritually awake people live for that feeling. They understand that sharing too early can drain the soul, while holding sacred space for themselves allows deeper joy to grow. Mystery becomes the bridge between you and the divine. It keeps your life enchanted, your lessons sacred, and your peace untouched. So let the world wonder. Let them guess what you're up to while you're out there aligning your energy, refining your path, and expanding quietly. You don't owe anyone your process, only your presence. Protect your sacred space. Nurture your growth in silence. Let your evolution speak for itself when it's ready. Because when your light finally breaks through, it will be undeniable. Remember, your privacy is not a wall, it's a garden, and what you grow there will one day feed your soul and inspire the world without you ever having to say a word.